Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. On the economy. So we saw the producer price index come down a bit, but it's still above 7%. The Federal Reserve Chairman says that core inflation may be moving sideways. We get a CPI inflation reading again next week. So if Americans don't see significant progress on inflation, does that mean the Inflation Reduction Act early next year hasn't worked?
Well, okay, let's step back for a second. So near-term inflation expectation fell this month, so that's important. We saw that in the data, so it's important to call out. The producer price index rose at its slowest annual rate since May 2021. So that is data points that we saw in the index today. Americans are beginning to see a much-needed break in inflation, but we have more work to do. And so gas prices have fallen about $1.70 since June and are lower than they were a year ago before Putin's war. That's because of the work that this president has done to bring gas prices down, to deal with an issue that matters to the American people when we look at the economy, which is inflation and cost. So millions of Americans shopping for health insurance plans continue to save $800 per year thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act. So yes, it's been beneficial, and we see that it is working. And in 6 weeks, President Biden's plan to bring down prescription drugs, prescription drug prices and energy costs goes into effect. And that's going to matter for the American people as they think about when they sit around their kitchen table. You hear the president talk about this at the end of the month, trying to figure out how they're going to pay for items in their house. And these, what I just listed out, or in their lives, is going to matter. Lowering costs, healthcare costs, lowering energy costs. We're already seeing that it's going to have a real effect on American families. And so I will leave it there.
Yeah, but you had said the inflation, before the midterms, you told me that the Inflation Reduction Act should bring down inflation early next year. So if it doesn't do that significantly, is that seen as then a failure?
First of all, that's a bunch of hypotheticals that you're asking me. What I laid out was something that economists said by looking at the Inflation Reduction Act, by examining it and understanding what it's going to do for the American people. You're bringing up a hypothetical. What I said was, again, what was the analysis that was done by economists, and I just laid out also how we see the Inflation Reduction Act is actually going to help the American people, and that matters. And I have to say, Ed, and just going back to the past several months as well, look, the Inflation Reduction Act was a piece of legislation that was signed by the president that was only passed by Democrats. And what you saw from Republican officials over the past several months is how they wanted to get rid of it because they were upset about Social Security. They wanted to put Medicare on the chopping block, and they have no plan to lowering costs. So what you're seeing from this administration, what you're seeing from this president, what you're seeing from Democrats in D.C., in Congress, is that they are taking action to lower costs for the American people, and that matters, and that's what we're going to continue to do.